Exodus chapter 5. God pressed Moshe to go to Egypt to demand that Pharaoh release the Israelites. Yet, instead of asking for complete freedom immediately, God instructed Moshe to begin with a modest request, a 3-day journey into the wilderness to worship. Chapter 3, Pasuk 18. They will listen to you, then you and the elders of Israel shall go to the king of Egypt and say to him, The Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has manifested himself to us. Therefore let us go a distance of 3 days into the wilderness to sacrifice to the Lord our God. V'shamala kolecha uvata ata v'ziknei Yisrael al melch Mitzrayim v'amartem elav Hashem Elokei avirim nikra elenu v'ata nelchana derech shloshet yamim b'midbar v'nizbachna l'Hashem Elokeinu. When Moshe and Aharon first approached Moshe in chapter 5, however, they make an even vaguer request. Permission to go celebrate God in the wilderness without specifying a time frame. Pharaoh scoffs and questions, Who is the Lord that I should heed him? In response, Moshe and Aharon clarify the request by including 3 days, and then add a little bit of urgency. Pasuk 3. Pen yifka'enu b'midbar b'daver or v'cherev, lest God strike us with pestilence or by the sword. Pharaoh not only refuses, but retaliates by increasing the Israelites' workload, deepening their suffering, and alienating them from Moshe. There are a few questions on this. Why did God instruct Moshe to ask for only 3 days? Malbim explains that this was a strategic move. By proposing the smallest, most reasonable request, God would expose Pharaoh's obstinacy. If Pharaoh would not grant even a short religious leave, it would demonstrate his absolute refusal to compromise. Later, this 3-day journey becomes a recurring point in negotiations, with Pharaoh offering partial concessions, such as allowing only the men to go, while Moshe insisting that everyone must participate. But next question. Why does Moshe initially omit the 3-day detail, then later specify it? One possibility is that 3 days, in biblical language, often signifies a period of separation or transition, rather than a literal 72 hours. For example, Lavan placed a 3-day distance between himself and Yaakov when dividing their flocks in Genesis chapter 30. Yosef interprets the dreams of Pharaoh's servants by saying their outcomes would occur in 3 days in Genesis chapter 40. In both cases, 3 days marks a turning point, not necessarily literally 3 days. Thus, Moshe and Aharon may have begun with a general request to avoid alarming Pharaoh. When Pharaoh resists, they clarify that they seek only the minimum, a symbolic period of separation. Now the third question. Why did they add this element of a punishment in the phrase, Pen yifka'enu b'dever v'cherev, lest God strike us with pestilence or sword? On a simple level, this appeals to Pharaoh's religious sensibilities. Ancient rulers feared angering the gods. Yet this argument seems weak. Pharaoh considered himself divine, and in ancient worldview, a conquered people's God was powerless. So why mention it at all? Another interpretation is that this is a veiled threat. Moshe and Aharon avoid saying God will strike you instead using us. But the implication is clear. If Pharaoh refuses, divine punishment will come, not only upon Israel, but upon Egypt and its king. This subtle phrasing allows Moshe to warn Pharaoh without direct confrontation, setting the stage for escalating plagues that follow.